Hi, my name is Farlin Amora, and today, at the start of my talk, I would like to ask all of you, what came to your mind for the very first time when you heard the word commitment? Probably you all might think of all the tiring commitment that you had from work, school stuff, family problems, or even some other responsibilities you had about yourself and your surroundings. All of these commitments are seemingly a really hard thing to do. It's hard for us to pledge our lives that we could commit to doing all the things we need, even small stuffs like weekly room cleaning. Even so, little do you know that commitment itself wouldn't be really that hard for us if we got the courage to always do it, because we know that we need to do it. And obviously, we also realize that it's a necessary thing to do. Grumbling about it won't change anything, right? Well, right here, let me tell you the story of mine. My parents are such music enthusiasts that they have been blasting lots of genres of music at home ever since I was young. They listen to all of them, from Indonesia's traditional dangdut music, pop, rock, heavy metal, to even jazz beats, K-pop, and classical music. This got my ears used to all the diversity of music ever since I was young. But I remember one significant genre that got stuck in my mind all through is classical. I remember the way Mom would turn on the MP3 player and she would blast it Tchaikovsky, Mozart, Chopin, and then we would dance or waltz together all across the room. We would listen to all the classical pieces together almost every day. And sometimes she asked me, what came to my imagination when we listened to the music? Would it be a galloping horse? A sad old person? A flower in the rain? It's such a beautiful memory I had with my mom. And then, when I was about 5 years old only, I started to ask for piano lessons. I want to make beautiful melodies such as what I heard, and I want to be a classical musician. Amongst all the instruments that I know by that time, piano interests me the most. Yet, as I had expected, my parents did not necessarily say yes upon my first attempt to ask for it. They are pretty much unsure of my commitment to it, as affording piano lessons for a little girl which is only 5 years old and plus from an average middle-class family, it might be a bit too much for us if I still have a low commitment to it. However, I had a strong will to do it and I kept asking over and over and over if they could grant this desperate wish of mine to have the piano lessons. You know, it took me months to repeat my wish and try to assure them that I'd value my piano lessons. Luckily, after all of those hoo-has, my parents finally agreed to get me that lessons. Of course, I'm so happy to hear this decision. I remember exactly that I couldn't speak much, yet all the butterflies in my stomach got me running all around the room like a mad cat. After all the research and trials around, we finally chose a place for piano lessons and I started taking it. By that time, I'm already 6. Well, you know, my parents often remind me to not forget my promise to commit to my piano. And little me thought it would be absolutely no worries. I even have the certain superpower of being able to play a song after just once of hearing it. You know, that made me even more in love with piano. But there's always a turn upon everything, right? When I entered my teenage years, my friends probably introduced me to the fun of pop music. This is kind of a plot twist over myself, whom before almost only listened to classical music. Well, not only it had been noted as a bad thing, as listening to other genres of music while learning classical piano. But I consider it as a blessing even now, of where I had aligned with it, and it could give me quite a personal touch now while I play the piano. But by that time, the influence of it on my piano was pretty much negative. The new music I listened somehow affected my classical piano training. My way of playing all the songs that I listen to my piano takes over all of the practices that I'm supposed to focus on. And even worse, this hearing ability got me super duper lazy on reading scorebooks, even though I had known that scorebooks are the key to play classical music. I got lazier to continue the classical music practices, and I just got stuck in my endless improvisation songs. I abandoned my scorebooks, and eventually I agreed to stop taking lessons. I thought I'll be fine, but I'm actually feeling pathetic. I tried to keep up with the practices myself, but it just as if trying to mock me, trying to make me look dumb. But just then, my parents seemed to be watching how I slowly puddled in my frustration, and they decided to help. Together, we talk about my piano lessons, our feelings each about the situation I'm in. Then, after a whole damn convo, I finally realized. Actually, I didn't give up on piano. I love piano, and I have a huge desire to be good at it. I even want to be professional at it. So, after quite a while, we decided to search for a new music teacher. I tried to brace myself up and just promise. This time, whatever happens and whatever I feel, I'll be thinking of piano as my buddy, and I'll commit to it until I'm really good at it. Well, I had built up my courage for it, and I promise I will not to lose to my emotional side anymore. Thus, I resumed my musical journey again. I promised to myself I would not think of piano as merely a challenge I need to conquer. I would start to embrace it as a really good fellow. I promised to myself that I would take it easy and never leave my piano ever again, no matter what. I chose to do it. I have passion for it, and I want to be good at it. Eventually, I would even find a way to cooperate with other genres apart from classical to create my beautiful piano improvisations. We all believe that a good friend would never leave us in either the highs or the lows of our lives, right? And that is exactly how I would see the piano. They'll be there for me to play when I'm sad, to simply cheer me up. It could be madly improvising kind of healing when I was angry or depressed. And then, when I'm happy, I would just smash the keys and I'll be even better and even happier afterwards. That's exactly what I expect a good companion to be like. Once, I read how Beethoven, the father of symphony himself, is despised by the society around him because his music is new. He wasn't making the kind of music that everyone had been used to hearing through the Baroque and classical eras. Instead, he crashed his piano with multiple of dramatic pieces, and each of them having quite of a different vibe from each other. Well, the listeners would side-eye him, and they would even compare him to all successful musicians living before him. Some would even say that he wrote bad music. Little do they know that despite many times people turned him down, Beethoven committed to not changing his music style. He even continued to compose many brilliant pieces. He won't stop making music even when he started to lose his eyesight and later also his hearing ability. At first, he may not have been that famous kind of composer, but little by little, people would start to acknowledge his talent and also his commitment to music. They listened to the new style he offered from his pieces and as well saluted his journey to success. His music even makes an important bridge between the classical era to the romantic era of classical music. And now, if someone asks you, do you know a classical musician? You probably answer, yes, I know Beethoven. Everyone kept praising him even when he passed away and his music became that much popular for the first time. And the people would even remember the struggles he had in the story of his musical life. They would even be likely to praise how he still committed to making music after all these difficulties he faced. Right here, I believe that we all are facing different challenges in life. And I think all of them might have a core of commitment to it. It's not only about your work and studying stuffs, but it's also such things as choosing a school to attend, to pick what today's meal will be, or committing over a small routine of washing your hair or clothes. At some point, we feel like we won't do it. We're just tired and we thought of how actual life is lacking because of it. Especially if there are a lot of people who aren't supportive enough to encourage us to continue the good stuff that we want to do. Fear of failure is what often makes people lose their confidence and commitment to many things they have a great interest in it, and even passion for. And right now, I realize that my previous downfall on piano itself is all about my extreme fear of failing in classical music only, despite of just being a twirl of other genres. It leads me to lose my motivation towards it. But losing motivation doesn't immediately make a complete fool out of me. Deep inside, I feel the immense dejection of those lime memories. But later on, there was a small voice in my heart and also my head that would remind me to not fear that kind of failure anymore. Failure itself is a way for all of us to rethink of our decisions and take more careful steps to something which are much better. Think of it as stepping stones. Stepping stones to be much better in all the way ahead. Meanwhile, what happens if we suddenly lose motivation again? Don't say I made no well experienced those periods of burnout anymore. Those mood swings constantly happened over and over, and I certainly got annoyed all the time by it. But right each time the lame feeling appears, I know I need to remember the password that brings me back to my productivity. There are lots of ways for each person to find things that will cheer them up and strengthen their commitment toward all the stuff they like. For me, I would remember my target to be a better pianist. And for more further, I would even reenact it how happy I was when I started doing my piano lessons at 5. That's exactly my good password to get my motivation back and resume my commitments. Another thing that you must not stop is to cheer on yourself on your journey and reach to your targets in life. Never be ashamed to just prance around and say something like, "Yay, I did it!" That's all for today. My name is Fair, and thank you so much for listening to my talk.